to stay. He said, Bucks said I hadn't opened up to the group enough, which I didn't really agree with. He said, I actually rang Bucks and asked what was happening. He said for me to pursue a trade as heavily as I can. A couple of days before the trade period, my manager mentioned I might be traded. It was a bit of a shock at the time. What do you make of this? It's quite an incredible situation. We might have Treloar to come, we might have Tom Phillips, but Kingy, Jaden Stevenson's trade to North Melbourne has come as a shock to most Collingwood fans. 2 weeks ago, it looked like he was going to be playing at the Pies for at least the next couple of years.
Oh, it's the biggest story of the off-season. There's no doubt. What has happened at Collingwood and what will it do to their premiership aspirations in the short term? I mean, they were talking about four wins in a row in that final series. We've got to beat the West Coast. Now we're on a roll. We're going to get rolling, and then all of a sudden it looks like the whole place is turning on itself. I can't understand what's happened financially, but clearly they were put in a really difficult situation with some trades 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
This fallout is you don't often hear players as quickly as Jaden saying what he's saying about
the ink is still drying on this contract, and he's talking on radio, and we've got to applaud the honesty, but it's damning for Collingwood, isn't it, Joey?
Yeah, it is. It's a strange one because when they went over and beat West Coast in a final, we felt like there was this group that were connected, and we've heard all that sort of language come out of the club. They were as one, and then very quickly, as soon as the season's ended, there's a little bit of disharmony. You know, Treloar's obviously really angry, and whether he stays at the club, most likely not. We know Stevenson. I wonder what it does for this playing group and where they're at mentally and where they think they're at, because I mean, when you look at their list profile now, Kingy, they are in the window, really. I mean, we've spoken a lot about other clubs that have older playing lists, and Hawthorn, for example. Well, the Pies will have 7 of their best team over 30 going into next season. They're losing a couple of their young players, maybe Treloar, one of their star midfielders. It's really fascinating. I think that's why we've desperately wanted to hear from someone from Collingwood to find out from their point of view what's going on, and hopefully after about an hour and 25 minutes we might be able to find out from someone.
It is strange that information would get to Jaden at that point of the season. If he's not opening up to the group, what hope have you got in October of sorting that out? I mean, that's a conversation for, you know, a 6-week review, if you like, at round 6. Hey, look, we don't think you're buying into what the leaders are telling you to do. We don't think you're buying into the game plan. You're not doing this, you're not doing it. There's sort of updates you get along the way as an AFL player. That's part of the package, especially at this age. And you're so impressionable in your first 60 to 80 games. That's when you build the habits that take you to where he's going to get to, and hopefully that's the pointy end of the elite players in the competition. He's got all the tools. I'm staggered that Nathan has decided to tell him this information as he's walking out the door.
Yep. It's incredible. So he was.
Can you believe that?
No, I can't. I find it surprising because, I mean, especially we've seen his confidence this year that you'd think those would have been ongoing conversations and, you know, wrapping their arm around him that we heard and we'd, you know, seen some vision of it. But clearly they weren't really thinking that behind closed doors. They were obviously thinking, well, he's not fitting in or he's not buying in. Let's move him on. Whether, again, the pressures come from up above from Bucks saying we've got to get rid of some of these players on high salaries. You're going to have to, you know, sort of somehow let these players know. And he's trying to put a bit of a footy spin on it. I don't know. I mean, there's probably a lot that we don't know that we'd love to find out.
Well,
it's more than just football. It's more than their on-field football ability. We certainly know that because Stevenson and Treloar and Phillips, but they can all play footy. They're all good footballers. So clearly there's more to it than just their on-field football.
Ned Guy was on radio about a week ago and he said he didn't want to give away too much until the end of the trade period out of respect for these players. Understandably, it's now an hour and a half until the end of the trade period. We've asked to have Ned Guy on tonight, and we're not sure we're going to be able to get him. So I think Collingwood fans deserve some answers. We're going to,
but just before you leave it, so this is one of your potential marquee players, like pick 6 in the draft only 3 years ago. So he's hardly an also-ran on your list. This is the guy that should be soaking up a large percentage of your available man hours.
Absolutely.
In terms of coaching and off-field development. Halfway through his second year, so his first year, everyone wants to talk about his first year. 38 goals, you know, top. I think he was 8th for Collingwood in terms of creating scores. Score assists, which was more than Treloar and Varco and Myercheck, these players. His second year at round 12, prior to the gambling incident, he'd kicked 21 goals in the space of 11 games. So he's low-flying. A year and a half into his AFL journey. Now, he's had a poor year this year. Hub Life hasn't agreed with him.
He said that,
And I think that we've got to just accept that some players haven't handled that. How is this guy not getting all the energies of the Collingwood coaching staff, development staff, channelled into him. So if there's something that's 5% out, it's not handled immediately.
Yeah.
That's what I take out of his discussion today.
Just before you go on, Ned Guy has been confirmed. He'll join us at 8:20 tonight. So he's the Collingwood list manager, and we can't wait to speak to him. We just want to know more.
Yeah, because the drop-off of Stevenson, no, you just touched on it then, but even his first 3 games this season, he kicked 7 goals in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah.
He started off really well. He still was getting a bit of ball, wasn't hitting the scoreboard. It was his last month where he really dropped away. He had 8 disposals, no goals, 8 disposals and a goal. We know the semi-final against Geelong, he just had the 3 disposals and went missing. So really, his first 6 or 7 rounds even of this season weren't that bad for a third-year player that was having a down season. So it's fascinating that they've felt out of all the players at the club, that they could try and move on, if it is for salary cap reasons, if it is Cox or Phillips, they're moving on Stevenson, one of their young rising stars who's got plenty of upside to become a genuine gun of the competition.
And we do have to balance the discussion, because Nathan Buckley might be sitting at home saying, what is he talking about? I've sat down with this guy 10 times this year and we've had these discussions. Why is he saying this?
Well, that's what's good with speaking to Ned Guy.
Yeah, I get that, but this is not really Ned's area. He's not in the development phase. He's not coaching him day to day. He's not building the player, if you like. That's in a different department. So that's not really on Ned.
No.
But he's clearly had a tested relationship with Nathan Buckley. I don't personally like the fact that as soon as he's walked out the door, they've given him 3 years, they've given him an opportunity to play AFL football, one of the bigger clubs in the country. To say what he said today, I think is a little bit disrespectful.
I agree, and maybe that says a little bit about Jaden Stevenson, because some of the feedback I got from Collingwood was he did need to sharpen up on his professionalism, probably needed to work harder on his game to develop more strings to his bow and be able to do different roles and those things. So I'm sure there is a bit of a balance. We're not just saying that Collingwood are getting rid of a guy that they really rate really highly. Clearly, he's got some work to do on his own football, but I think that's the job of your senior coach and your development staff when you've got a young, prodigious talent, to do everything you can to get the best out of him, not just ship him off after one poor season. And I'll tell you what, they'll be watching the Collingwood fans at how he goes at Kangaroos, and if they can get the best out of him, well, lucky days for the Kangaroos.